Do not adjust your radio dial. You are tuned in to the Mark Order Podcast. Join the Mark Order.
Guys, it's so cold. Winter has come. By the looks of it, so has Ryan. Meow. It hit him late. He gets it. He gets it. I think we might get it too much. It's the Mark Order Podcast. Here on the Shining Wizards Network. 3-man band in the house tonight. We got Ryan Schlong. We've got Asian Joe. And we're gonna talk about winter because it's here. Perhaps with the Golden Jets. Yes. Boy. Gentlemen.
Boy.
How's the week been so far?
It's weeking.
Weeking's good.
I am still waiting for winter to come up here.
You're waiting for what to come?
Winter?
It's not there yet? Well, I guess the time difference, right?
Maybe that's it.
So everybody's good? Everybody's enjoying winter now that it's come for like the last, I don't know, it's been here for what? 2 hours and 18 minutes, I guess.
I guess. I mean, I don't see any snow, so I'm not 100% sure I agree with that, but now, did you mean?
No.
Did you mean to?
No, don't say it. It's not. It's
okay.
It just says it's the other thing.
Okay, as long as we're clear.
It's a T, because I'm not going to stand for that. If you get my drift,
It's warranted. I just want to make sure that was.
Yeah, that's usually reserved for other people, but they've stopped coming to the chat. They got the drift. If they're watching, you know who we're talking about. It was always a staple. To put it
always.
So Ryan, things are good.
Things are grand. How about you, Ant?
They're good. I'm just making sure you're okay because it's been a bad couple weeks in the NFL for you. Just making sure.
Doesn't bother me.
Okay. I'm not trying to get in your claw.
You're trying to red velvet this. I understand.
Stir it up? No.
Yep. Oh, you're very clearly trying to stir it up.
I'm just asking the hard-hitting questions. Asian Joe, you're a Green Bay Packer fan?
I am.
How are you feeling?
I mean, they lost to Tommy DeVito, so I don't know.
Tommy Cutlets. Hey.
I do appreciate them really playing up to the gimmick with his agent and his family.
And well, it is no lie. He does still live at home with his family. And I was having a discussion with Mrs. Money. I said, if that was me, I would have been like, I'm going to stay here, but I'm going to rent some apartment and not even move anything in. Just have my name on a lease. Dirt cheap. So if somebody asks, I'd be like, nope, I have my own place. You could check the records.
I'm just more caught up in his agent.
His agent couldn't get more Goomba Johnny if you tried. I mean,
he looks like he belongs on The Sopranos.
here's something you guys might not know. I've never seen an episode of The Sopranos.
That's disturbing. I don't know how to respond to that.
I have no desire. It seems boring.
One of the greatest TV shows ever created.
I've also never seen Game of Thrones, and everybody tells me how great that is. No desire.
What do you watch?
I watch plenty of stuff.
Naked Attraction?
Like, if that's your bar, then I don't know what we're doing here, Ant.
No, I don't watch solely Naked Attraction. I honestly, after we talked about it, I don't think I ever went back and watched any more of it. It had a very
2 viewings is enough.
It had a very quick, shelf life. Did you guys happen to see the Mother God Love Has Won documentary on HBO?
I don't know.
Everybody's shaking their heads. Yeah, watch that. I'll say this. It's 3 episodes. They're an hour because they're a true HBO doc, but it moves very fast. It's weird to say the least. It's called Love Has Won. Maybe something like The Story of Mother God or something like that. I don't know. It's fucking weird. And I thought it took place like, I don't know, in the early aughts. Everything went down within the last like 3 years. So it's weird.
It's good to know cults are still up and running.
Yeah. And I'm just still, I don't know if it's infatuated with them or I'm just always blown away by how fucking stupid I take everybody to be who gets sucked into it.
Yeah, because you're just trying to figure out how to start your own.
No, I don't know if I could juggle running a cult and everything else that's going on. I don't know if I could live the gimmick, Ryan. That's the problem.
Well, I've been a leader. I've been a follower. It's more fun to be a leader, but you have more sex as a follower.
You're close. I think it's you have more fun as a follower, but you make more money.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys should definitely watch that. I would love to discuss that. It's a fucking weird one, man. Especially because I'm just going to throw this one thing at you and then it might be enough to get you to figure out, like, go watch and figure this out. This woman called herself Mother God and she was like the reincarnation of God and she was going to ascend. I don't know. Aliens were going to come pick her up or some shit like that. Clouds or spaceships. Okay. The hook that I'm going to tell you is she had a bunch of what they called celestials, and those were like beings who were talking to her and sort of guiding her. One of them was Robin Williams. And at many points in the documentary, they make reference and say, Robin was speaking to Mother God, or Robin was speaking to Mother and telling her blah, blah, blah. And they all believe it. They all are like, yeah, Robin said. And it didn't hit me at first what they were talking about. And then I had to go back and I was like, they're talking about goddamn Robin Williams. But there's a whole picture of who her celestials were. You guys have to see it for that alone. I promise you, it's not a naked game show.
I feel like I'm watching Dateline that did a story about her.
They probably did.
So
they probably did. So yeah, Ryan, I watch stuff. I'm currently rewatching Daredevil.
I'm just saying, you're missing out on some great shows.
Do you know what else I tried once, Ryan? And I never got through it. Well, I think I've mentioned, like, people used to say Lost was so great. No. Never. I got through like 2 episodes of Lost and then bailed on it. And I don't bail on a lot of stuff. Like, I'll try to see it through, but I couldn't hack Lost. Tried to watch The Wire, and I just really
Get Out.
No.
That is my favorite drama show.
I enjoyed it, but then like I don't know why I just didn't keep up with it. So I'm telling you, Ryan, I must have seen the first 2 episodes or 3 episodes of The Wire like 9 times a piece, and I just don't keep going. I don't know
It
why.
is amazing.
I know. I have to give that a fair shot. My commute is so short now, though, that I don't have a lot of time to like watch stuff on the train to and from work. So, I don't know. Well, glad to hear you guys are doing okay. I don't know. Christmas is coming if you celebrate. But I don't know. There's a pay-per-view Friday. Is it a pay-per-view for Ring of Honor? We'll talk about that card a little bit. We're not really covering it. But boy, winter is coming out a lot of action tonight, and especially in the Continental Classic. So we're going to talk about that in the second half. Why don't we talk a little bit first about what happened Friday night and Saturday night on Rampage and Collision, respectively. And Danielson wrestled 2 nights in a row, if you're living and dying by the TV schedule. So on Friday for Rampage, we had Orange Cassidy defeating Angelico. Abaddon defeated Trish Adora. And then afterwards, Julia Hart was in the ring with Abaddon. She laid the belt down on the ring. Abaddon picked it up. Lights go out. They come back, and Julia and the title are gone. So we're lighting that up. Takeshita and Takeshita and
Powerhouse.
Hobbs defeated Matt Sydal and Christopher Daniels. That was a bloodbath. In the Continental Classic, we had Bryan Danielson, and this was the main event. Bryan Danielson defeated Daniel Garcia. So Daniel Garcia still pointless in the Classic. Danielson gets another 3 points. And then afterwards, he spits on Garcia and celebrates his win as Rampage goes on the air. Garcia's a little distraught, holding his head in his hands. That ended the show, but there was a video afterwards where Danielson sort of explained why he did that. And he said that, I'll give the synopsis here. He said, sometimes I do things that I don't know why. And when I come back here and meditate, I figure out why. A lot of stuff comes up when I started the match. A lot of stuff that comes up from last year, things that I try to forget, but my body remembers. Last year telling Daniel Garcia that his entire life he's wanted to be a wrestler and not a sports entertainer. And then what happened? When I was facing Jericho in a Ring of Honor world title match, he completely betrayed me. And I get it. That happens in wrestling. But if he would have joined the BCC, I would have treated him like a son. I would have treated him like a son. And it also goes up, and it also brings up this fear that I've promised my daughter that this would be my last full-time year as a professional wrestler. And this fear that if by the time that I go home and I make that promise, that she doesn't want me anymore. And I couldn't articulate it, and I was out there, but my body felt it. My body felt that fear because eventually she's going to grow up and she's not going to want her dad around. And am I giving up this thing that I love so much for somebody who might not even want me? But then I've talked about this before. That's when you have to look deep down to see if you truly understand what love is. I'm going to stop being a full-time wrestler and I'm going to go back and be with my daughter. I'm going to be with my son, even when they don't want me there, because even when they don't want me there, they need me there. You can see in Daniel Garcia, last year, he didn't want me there, but 1 year later, he's still struggling to find his identity. He needed me there. That doesn't make the spitting right, but if you want to know why I spit on Daniel Garcia, that's why. So, gentlemen, the reason I bring that up is, well, one, just so you guys know, I thought Rampage was a fine show for an hour of wrestling. Glad to see the Abaddon and Julia Hart thing getting, moving forward. And then the Garcia Danielson match was fantastic. do you guys like the spitting thing and the reason why? I'm still having trouble connecting the dots here with the spitting and this whole like being there for somebody when they don't want you there.
I'm giving this honest thought because I wasn't prepared for this question.
Well, that's what I bring. I bring the hard-hitting questions. Also, SJ, I'm with you. I do love Abaddon as well. I'm very glad to see her back in the ring. A program with her and Julia Hart will be great. Joe, it looks like you've got a thought.
It's interesting to see Brian in these last couple matches and his post-match behavior. As far as spitting on Daniel Garcia, taunting Eddie Kingston with A is a bum sign. Just kind of really like digging at people and like going beyond what's necessary. And then he comes out of the ring, he's a completely different person again. But maybe it's just the mindset he has to have in order to win the tournament. I guess it's the only thing I can think of.
I hear what you're saying, Joe. But Ryan, do you think that, like, for me, I almost just wish he would have been like, I spit on Garcia because he rejected my offer, and look where he is now. He's less than me. Like, I would have been more okay with that than what he said was just, to me, like, I love Danielson, and usually I love his promos. It just felt so disconnected.
So I think the whole thing they're trying to get across is Danielson is coming to the end of a career that he doesn't like. Granted, he has said he'll wrestle still, but just not full time. But he's coming to the end of a career that he almost lost before, and he's coming to the end of a career that he doesn't actually want to end, but he's choosing to be around his kids. So I think the whole point they're trying to get across, and I don't know if it's coming across, is that he's pissed off at these guys he feels are wasting their career. Daniel Garcia is young, has all the potential in the world, and is doing nothing with it in Danielson's mind. Screw you. Eddie Kingston, you had both belts, you put them online, and then you're losing all your matches. Screw you. Like, I think that's what they're trying to get across. I don't know if it's come across yet, but I think that's where they're going with it. Is that like that's why he's saying I have, my kids. I'm going home because my kids, who as kids get older, they want to see their parents less, and I love this career. I don't want this career to actually end, but I have to. And so he's mad at these guys who have time left and are wasting it.
See, now, Ryan, what you say makes complete sense to me. I just wish it would have come across, like, it just didn't come across like that to me. It just felt like there were so many dots to connect. You know what I mean? It didn't feel cohesive to me, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, it's definitely not, which is why it took me a second to even put that together, because I think that's where they want to go. I don't think they've gotten there yet, but I think that give them time, they might.
Well, Danielson's in action again on Saturday, and in Collision, we have our opening match is the Continental Classic Tournament match between Eddie Kingston and Claudio Castagnoli. Eddie gets a win here over Claudio. That kind of surprised me. Willow Nightingale defeated Mercedes Martinez. And then afterwards, Diamante and Mercedes attack Willow, and Chris Statlander makes the save. Wardlow defeats Willie Mack. Poor Willie. Kenny Omega defeated Ethan Page, which was a pretty good match as well. Love to see Ethan Page. Ethan Page has a big match Friday night, against none other than Tony Nese. My goodness. Penta and Commander defeated Daddy Magic and Angelo Parker. Another Continental Classic match, our main event of the night. We had Andrade El Idolo and Bryan Danielson, and Andrade winds up beating Danielson. During this match, he was able to rip the face mask or the eye patch off him, dig into the scar, the stitch wherever the stitching wound was over his eye. We get some color. And after the match, the doctors and medical staff come to check on Danielson. Andrade's trying to check on him too. The BCC come down, shove Andrade out of the way. He motions that he'll be winning that Triple Crown, and the staff is still checking on Bryan as Collision goes off the air. So, I guess just jumping back to the top of the card, Joe, I'll ask you first. Did you find it a little surprising that Eddie Kingston came out with a win over Claudio?
I guess I'm surprised that he's won now, back-to-back matches over Claudio. I know Eddie needed a win, but it was interesting that they had Claudio take the loss again against him. But
right.
I enjoyed their match. I feel like every match of theirs is a little bit different. So this one was a little bit more of their characters in the ring, more than maybe the move set that they do.
Right. It is amazing. Ryan, you spend so much time on Twitter with our Twitter machine. You have to have seen all the chatter out there about what a lazy worker Eddie is, and blah blah blah, and this is the same match. I mean, I don't know, man. He wrestles his style. You know what I mean? Like, he's not gonna fucking change his style.
People hate Eddie just because they want to hate Eddie. Those people tend to just want to hate. He's a target in AEW to hate, and that's who tends to be a lot of those same people who just don't want to like anything in AEW as it is, because he kind of exemplifies like he wouldn't work in WWE, so he's an easy wrestler. The only thing I will say is he does wrestle his match. It's his match. He can only really wrestle one style. I mean, maybe he can wrestle others, but he found the one that works and the one he gets cheers for and the one that gets him over. I don't want to say he can't. He just goes with the one that works, which a lot of wrestlers do.
Yeah.
I think we kind of get spoiled that there's a lot of great wrestlers out there now who can wrestle 3 or 4 styles, but majority of wrestlers just wrestled their one. They have their style. They know it works for them. If they're over enough, that's the style they're going to wrestle. In a match of Claudio versus Eddie, yes, star power wise, they're about equal in AEW, but Eddie is over enough where Claudio is good enough to it. Claudio is a guy who can adjust his style. So why would you try to force Eddie to do something when Claudio can make it work? It just, again, I feel like people want to hate Eddie because he exemplifies what AEW is to some people, which I don't know why it's a bad thing that it's just like this regular looking dude who goes out and fights, but it is to people. But I don't think he's lazy. He just, listen, Bret Hart wrestled a very similar style for most of his career. Shawn Michaels wrestled a very similar style for most of his career. Hulk Hogan very much wrestled the same match for his entire career. It's okay. Like, if you know what works for you, go with it.
Sure. And it's amazing too, where there's not the same type of criticism, it seems like, for other contemporary wrestlers, even in the E, who work the same style, the same move set, hit all the same points in every single match. Look at prime example of this is Roman Reigns. He hits that fucking spear and the Superman punch. It's always the same shit. It's over with people. Like, if that's what you're into, that's fine. But it's the same thing for Roman Reigns as it is for Eddie, as it is for, Kenny Omega with some of his moves, right? Like, every wrestler has these signature moves to hit. It's going to happen. Like, that's where we are.
5 moves of doom.
Oh, the 5 moves of doom. Did you guys like Willow sneaking out with a win? I loved it.
Well overdue. I mean, Mercedes had her number in the last few matches, so she needed this one. And I think I like where it's setting up a tag match.
Yes. I do like setting up the tag match. I also wouldn't mind seeing a singles program between Mercedes and Chris Statlander. I mean, that seems like it could be a pretty good program because they're sort of 2 women wrestlers who are, sort of billed as being, 2 really tough women, right? Tough, strong competitors. So that could be a lot of fun if we do sort of eventually get there. But I don't know when we're going to get there. We definitely need a tag match first. Actually, I'll put this one out there. Any surprise, Ryan, I'll go to you first. Any surprise seeing Kenny Omega eke out a win over Ethan Page, especially with Ethan Page going into an important match for Ring of Honor?
No, I mean, I love Ethan Page. I wish it wouldn't be a surprise if he beat Kenny Omega. I think at some point in his career he will get there. But right now, he's not there. He's wrestling in ROH, and Kenny Omega is Kenny Omega. So, no, there was no surprise. What I think they did well here was what they used to do when I want them to get back more to is when a guy loses, have him lose not because of outside have him look good in a loss, not because it took cheating to beat him, but just because he looked really good in a loss. I think they did that with Ethan Page here. I think he looked really good. He just isn't quite at Kenny's in their booking at Kenny's level yet. And he's got to go and he's going to beat Tony Nese and he's got to do all that. And as he builds himself up, let him get to that level. But yeah, him winning now would have been the shock of my year, I think.
Especially over Kenny. I mean, maybe the better question, Joe, is should they have had Ethan Page wrestle somebody where he had a shot at winning, sort of going into the pay-per-view the Ring of Honor pay-per-view, maybe to try to coax people into joining the club to watch the show.
I mean, you can go that route. That seems to be a common route that you go with, but you can also go the route of kind of like what Ryan was saying is put him up against Kenny Omega, and you can really feature Ethan Page and put him back out in front of a broader audience, and showcase him, help people remember what he can do, show off his new linear physique. He's pulling out some moves that I don't think I've seen since I don't watch ROH that much. So there were some things that he did this match that I don't remember seeing before. So there's a nice little springboard cutter. And so, yeah, I think you can do the same thing as, watching a guy as you can losing against a top guy.
Yeah, it's just an interesting, I guess it's interesting to me, and I understand what you're saying completely, both of you guys. It's just interesting where I guess you would want to try to be selling people on hey, sign up for the Honor Club. Ethan Page, big win tonight. Is he going to come out with a win over Tony Nese? Find out. But he sort of gets out with a loss. If
people haven't signed up for the Honor Club now, are they going to sign up?
I don't disagree, to be honest. I don't disagree. Also didn't mention it in the rundown because we just covered the matches. Fantastic promo with CJ Perry and Miro, where CJ Perry is hyping up Andrade, and then Miro interrupts and asks, when's the last time you said so many nice things about me? And he wanted her back home cooking and cleaning while he makes the money. And, she calls him delusional, but he says once the classic is over, so is Andrade. So it looks like after this, we're going to get a little program, which would be nice. Wish we had gotten it earlier, but, it is what it is. So I just thought that was hilarious, which also is fantastic because of the sign that was in the crowd tonight where it said CJ Perry equals breadwinner. Just fantastic. And then guys, I guess the big one to ask about here is, so Friday night we see Danielson, he spits on Garcia, he's looking good, loses to Andrade in the main event. Any surprise there? I think we all sort of thought maybe Danielson was going to run the table here, maybe not win the tournament, but I don't necessarily know if I had him losing to Andrade on my bingo card. It was a little surprising to me. Joe, I'll ask you first because I put Ryan with Ethan Page and Kenny Omega. Surprise to you?
Yeah, this was more of a surprise than Eddie beating Claudio again for me. But I liked what they did with this match and how they had Andrade win. against Danielson with, doing whatever it took, working over the eye, being ruthless to the point of, doing everything that the BCC would do to win. And then that kind of carried on over to his next opponent, where against Brody King tonight, we'll talk about. But so yeah, I think it was a surprise, but I liked how they did it.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal to see what Andrade was doing, but we know he can be that type of guy. You know what I mean? He just hasn't necessarily been that guy a whole bunch. Ryan, surprised to you to see Danielson lose this?
No, I love this. This is great. I think it's telling a story of Andrade going for Danielson's broken eye after he's the one credited with breaking the eye or orbital bone, whatever. So they're forming a story that they can come back to anytime they want, which is what I love about this story. Kind of gives Andrade a little bit of momentum and a push that I think people weren't expecting for him. A little bit of adversity, so to say, for Danielson. A little bit of. I think he was expected to cakewalk, and now he's gotta earn it. So I like it because you get a story. You get like 3 stories out of this. You have Andrade targeting Danielson's eyes. You have the story of Andrade versus Danielson. You have the story of Andrade doing much better in the tournament than people gave him credit for, and being very dirty and evil by going for an eye. And you have the story of Danielson now having a loss that no one expected he'd have.
Not to also mention that coming out of this match, it looks like there's a possible issue between Andrade and the BCC, right? The pushing and the shoving after this match. Miro certainly has let his opinion be heard that Andrade's finished after the tournament. So even beyond the match, Ryan, like there's more for them to do. Like they have a lot of things that they're setting up. So, but that was Collision and Rampage. And then just because that sort of was the end of week 3 in the Continental Classic, at that point in time, the week 3 results are as follows. In the Gold League, Moxley defeated Roosh. Swerve Strickland defeated Mark Briscoe. Jay White defeated Jay Lethal. In the Blue League, Danielson defeated Daniel Garcia. Eddie Kingston defeated Claudio Castagnoli. And then doing double duty in week 3, Bryan Danielson lost to Andrade. So at that point in time, at the end of Saturday night, in the Gold League, Swerve and Mox both had 9 points. Jay White had 6, Roosh with 3, and then Jay Lethal and Mark Briscoe, both 0 points, sort of mathematically eliminated from contention. In the Blue League, a 3-way tie at the top. Brody King, Andrade, and Danielson with 6 points. Although Brody King didn't have a match in week 3, but he has a match tonight, so we'll talk about it. Eddie Kingston has 3 points. Claudio has 3 points. And Daniel Garcia still had none. So, there were a lot of stories going on this week. We knew that we were going to get 4 matches. We got them all tonight. Moxley versus Swerve, Jay White versus Briscoe, Roosh versus Jay Lethal, and Brody King versus Andrade. So we are definitely going to talk about that. But before we do, we're going to step aside. We've got a lot to talk about for Winter is Coming. I might have some unpopular opinions, but we'll discuss that in the second half. So let's take a break. Let's gather our thoughts. Let's stay tranquilo, and everybody stay tuned and listen to some of these words from some of the other fine shows that are part of the Shining Wizards Network.
Thank each and every one of you for tuning in every Monday night to listen to The Shining Wizards. If you'd like to continue to support us outside of listening, we've got a few ways for you to do that. If you shop at Amazon, go over to amazon.shiningwizards.com, do your shopping as usual, and when you make your purchase, a little bit of that purchase price will go back to support the show. If you like to wear t-shirts, merch.shiningwizards.com will take you to our Pro Wrestling Tees store, where we've got over a dozen great designs from over 11 years of professional wrestling podcasting. You can become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/wizardspodcast, where each and every week we call out your name as one of our show producers, and the more you support us, the more things that you're entitled to receive, and believe me, they are fantastic. If you can't support us monetarily, if you don't shop at Amazon, that's absolutely fine. Continue to listen to us wherever you listen to us on the World Wide Web, and make sure you like, rate, review, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Doesn't cost you anything, helps us out, and we can continue to bring you the love fest that is the Shining Wizards.
What's up, folks? It's your boy, the Impact Player, Mr. Philly Ray, inviting all of you to check out the Turnbuckle Throwbacks Wrestling Podcast. Join us as we cover all things current in the world of pro wrestling, as well as paying homage to the old school, the squared circle. So listen in and find out why we are the recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment broadcasting. Find us on all social media platforms and anywhere you get your podcast from. And as always, we are the proudest members of the Shining Wizards Network and Rant Entertainment Media.
Are you tired of being lied to every day by the mainstream media?
Do you want to know what's really going on in the world?
Do you want to make up your own mind about things and not be told what to think or say?
Then listen to Inconclusive Breakdown, a weekly anti-PC look at the world of entertainment and current events, brought to you without censorship or filters.
You can find us everywhere you listen to podcasts, BitChute, and on ShiningWizardsNetwork.com.
And also, we're a proud member of the Shining Wizards Network.
Got 30 minutes to kill?
Come check out 30 Screams or Less, where we review a horror movie in 30 minutes or less. We cover new movies and old ones too.
We'll give our honest thoughts on the movie, good or shit, as well as a rating of each one that we watch.
New episodes weekly, available on the Shining Wizards Network and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Corey.
Come check us out at 30 Screams or Less.
G'day guys, my name is Thomas, one half of the Broadcast Podcast. With our podcast, we go back and watch wrestling events from WWE, WWF, WCW, ECW, AEW, and many other wrestling promotions. You can check us out on Twitter at The Broadcast, that's TheBrokast, and you can also download all episodes on Apple Podcast, Castbox, Castro, and many other podcast apps.
You like your music heavy? Then check out Radioactive Metal on the Shining Wizards Network. For over 16 years now, Radioactive Metal has been one of the longest running podcasts. Over the years, we've interviewed some legendary metal acts, had some awesome discussions, and cranked a hell of a lot of tunes. So join your cool Uncle Snowy and his co-host Aaron for the audio mosh pit that is Radioactive Metal here on the Shining Wizards Network.
Well, the action is underway!
What's up, everyone? When on the Shining Wizards Network, be sure to check out Wrestling Night in Canada. If we're not recording another kick-ass podcast,
Or playing in punk bands.
Or recording kick-ass heavy metal albums.
then we're sitting back, we're grabbing a couple brews, and going over everything to do in the world of pro wrestling.
Because we're from Winnipeg, you idiots.
The Mark Order Podcast is the only show you need if you're looking for dedicated coverage of everything AEW on the Shining Wizards Network. Join us live on YouTube every Wednesday night at 10:15 p.m. Eastern after Dynamite to chat along with the show. If you can't join us live, listen to us on your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on all social channels at Mark Order Pod and use the hashtag #JoinTheMarkOrder, because if you don't find us,
we will find you.
I'm Kevin Rowe.
I'm Al Day.
And we're a couple of down under pounders that co-host Rogue Day Dots, an action figure collecting podcast where we talk about, well, just about anything that tickles our fancy at any given moment.
We're grumpy old men, and sometimes people get on our nerves. And when you get on our nerves, guess what? You get off the lawn.
Get off my lawn, asshole! We also go on a little bit of a mission. We go back and we're grading every wrestling figure line that's out there. I'm talking LJNs. I'm talking Jacks. I'm talking Hasbros. Who doesn't like a little Hulkaplex? It's a Gorilla Brain Wrestling podcast production found on the Shining Wizards Network.
I'm Duke Bags.
Kevin Rowe.
And together we are the co-hosts of Year of Duke and Road. If you want to hear about some terrible wrestling shows, we got you covered.
Well, we talk about good ones, too.
We're currently talking about the death of WCW.
I know what we're fucking talking about. Sometimes we get guest spots, like from the Taskmaster. I like to listen to the Year of Duke and Road podcast. They're funny guys. I like when they talk about the Nards plows. I like Nards plows. That's a good move. And I like the Dungeon of Doom. You know, sometimes I call my butt the Dungeon of Doom. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, to Oklahoma.
Let me tell you a little bit about my favorite wrestling podcast. All right. It's a podcast from two men, Duke Bags, Kevin Rowe. They talk about professional wrestling. It's a man's sport, all right? And who better to talk about a man's sport than Duke? Oklahoma.
And once in a while, Vince Russo stops by.
Whoa, you piece of shit! If you're not listening to the Year of Duke and Road podcast in the back with the boys, you piece of shit, I don't know what you're doing. It's, you gotta slide one in there. If you're a man, you're talking about something only a man can do. You're talking about sliding one in there. Bro, take the time to slide one in there. All right, bro, you piece of shit, slide one in there. A Gorilla Brain Wrestling podcast production that you can find on the Shining Wizards Network.
All right, everybody, we're back here on the Mark Order podcast, also proud members of the Shining Wizards Network. And we want to let you guys know to follow us on all of our socials at Mark Order Pod on X, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Make sure you're following us because we've got a whole bunch of stuff that we're working on for 2024, and we will certainly put details out there. The first thing I'll mention about that is we're going to be starting a Saturday night watch along for Collision. So stay tuned. We don't have a name for it yet. Maybe we're going to workshop some names. Maybe we're going to see if anybody has a name for us. I don't know, but follow us on our socials so you can find out about all of the things that we have planned in the hopper for 2024, because we are going to be putting out more content. And some other fun stuff. The other thing we want you to do is to prepare for that. Head over to YouTube, subscribe, youtube.com/MarkOrderPod. Sign up, get alerts, all that kind of stuff. So you can be sure anytime we're ready to go live or we put up new content, you know about it first. We're trying to get to 500 subscribers slowly and steadily. We are making our way. And don't forget, 500 wins something special. There's nobody here to deny it. Win a date with Kate. So, 500. Let's get there. But the other thing you could do too, if you'd like to support us financially, head over to our link tree on our social bios and hit the link to our Pro Wrestling Tees store. You could also go to prowrestlingtees.com/MarkOrderPod or just search the Mark Order Podcast on prowrestlingtees.com and you'll find our store right here with our 4 t-shirts there for you to purchase. 2 front prints, 2 front and back prints. Don't know if there's going to be another sale going on before the end of the year, but get somebody something really nice for Christmas and show your support for the Mark Order Podcast. Thanks to everybody who's already ordered a shirt, and we thank you for anybody who's going to purchase a shirt in the future. So, gang, all the business out of the way. Let's get to talking about winter is coming. That's right. Winter is coming to Arlington, Texas, where historically temperatures plummet and they have feet and feet of snow once winter arrives. Wait, that's completely wrong. I'm thinking of Minneapolis. But either way, winter is coming. was the Dynamite edition we got tonight. A lot of stuff happening tonight. And we start out with Samoa Joe opening up the show. We don't even get the open tonight. Just Samoa Joe makes his entrance. They get a recap of the attack last week on MJF. And Joe introduces himself to Texas, who are already pretty aware of who he is. And he said he's come here tonight looking for answers. And not a long time ago, he promised MJF that he'd keep him whole until he could dismantle him personally at World's End and become the AEW World Champion. But last week, he was made into a liar by the machinations of the devil. He says he saw a beer bottle of a certain brand of a beer that a certain cowboy enjoys, and then smelt a certain scent of Stetson and disappointment, but he couldn't find this certain cowboy. And then enters the cowboy, Hangman Adam Page. And he says if Joe wants to accuse him of something, he should just say it like the man he is. And if you think he had anything to do with it, you'd be surprised, because he doesn't care about the bromance or laser tag or the game of whodunit. He just doesn't care. And Joe says that he made a mistake thinking he's out here as detective when maybe he's out here as the executioner. But that's when Roddy enters with the kingdom and interrupts and says Joe should listen to Hangman because he's his young boy after all. And he asks if Joe has seen what's been happening, and he spins this conspiracy web about Max being the devil himself. And then Paige tries to intervene, but Roddy's not having it and tells him he's not talking to him. And then Adam punches him in the face with the right hand for good measure. And then Ref Aubrey sort of restores order, and the match sort of gets underway after Roddy takes off the neck brace and gets back in and starts to go in after Hangman. I'm going to pause it there because the opening segment I want to sort of get some thoughts on before we talk about the match. So we're continuing to do what we've been doing. We're sort of entering new players into the game, right? So last week we sort of had the first major, sort of the first time that I recall that anybody in any major way, and it was Max, said, "Hey, Hangman, I think it's you." Right? And then MJF gets attacked. Joe's continuing that narrative. Roddy is continuing his point that it's just MJF. He's swerving all of us. So do we like the fact that they're still sort of, planting all these seeds? I mean, we don't know what's going to happen to Hangman Adam Page at this point in the show. He's got his match right now. So, we don't know what's going to happen to Roddy. We don't know if MJF is there. He's not scheduled, but, do we still like this? Joe, I'll throw to you first because it was Samoa Joe first. I'm going to throw to Asian Joe first. What did you think of this opening sort of back and forth and game of, who done it?
I feel like it's coming. Is the clock is ticking on when we need to advance this, I believe. I feel like we've been doing the same thing now for a couple of weeks. I'm hoping that maybe we have a better resolution at World's End. I hope we don't drag it out and for months until Adam Cole gets back. I'm hoping we just an answer and figure it all out before then, so we can move on. So, but yeah, I mean it's intriguing enough. I do like the fact that they incorporate so many different, whodunit red herrings in here.
Ryan, same question to you. Do you like this sort of pulling people in and then pushing other people out and continuing these narratives that it's MJF?
I do. I think it's the only way to add intrigue to the story is to keep certain things fresh. And bring in new suspects that make sense. But I do like the narrative that it's MJF because it's the most logical narrative until they reveal who it is, which I don't believe will be MJF. But, I like that Roddy's seeing through it. Of course, they're on the list of suspects as it is, but I do like that he at least is putting it out there of like, we didn't see the attack. He was just laying there. Like, that's that's very suspicious. Or the week before, they didn't actually hurt, or the attack before, they didn't actually hurt MJF. They just grabbed him, and then you interviewed. So it's very so I like that they're putting enough intrigue into this where you're like, who could it be? Who is it? I still think MJF wouldn't. It'd be okay. It's my second least favorite. I think my least favorite is honestly Jack Perry. I just don't think he fits in the story that well. I think at this point I'm starting to lean towards the Kingdom and maybe Adam Cole in some fashion, and they're the best. Some maybe Wardlow because you have that giant man. That's the only reason I even say that is you just have a giant man involved.
Yeah.
They're probably
So
my
not
best.
Marco Stuntz.
Well, he's leading it all. We haven't seen him yet. He's the true mastermind. But they would probably be my best answer because their lease would be like pay off the line and some advancement forward. But we'll see. I mean, but I do like that they're bringing everyone in because it makes the story feel bigger.
Now let me lay this on you guys because we're talking about this whole devil and the reveal and all this kind of stuff. Because there's a lot of sort of curveballs that I feel got thrown in the way of stuff here. I think the biggest curveball that nobody maybe thought of or saw coming was the fact that MJF is legitimately hurt. He's got a tear in his labrum. You know, there was a tweet that he put out after, I guess, the doctor saw him saying he had to get surgery and he was going to be out, and then it quickly got deleted. And the rumors were saying that, they're going to try to rehab it naturally without having to do surgery. And then, something else, once they announced the match for last week that ultimately didn't wind up happening, the announced match with the Devils, the Minions and Samoa Joe and MJF, there was rumors out there that MJF, can work matches very lightly leading up to World's End, or at least work sort of smoke and mirror type matches. But it didn't wind up happening. Now here's my fear is that MJF is legitimately hurt, right? And he's gonna have to have surgery. And I don't know I haven't done the research, to be quite honest. I don't know what a normal sort of labrum surgery, muscle tear, recovery looks like. I don't know if it's a month. I don't know if it's 6 months. Either way, you would think if there's a surgery, they have to do something with this belt. And it would probably make sense to go to Joe because he's fighting him at World's End. Now, if that's what happens, how would you guys play this out? Because I was actually talking to somebody else about this the other day. Would you play it out to drag out the devil story? Or would you actually reveal it no matter what, sort of after World's End or at World's End, regardless of what MJF's status is, and then just keep it going, and if MJF does go out, then he has to come back to deal with it anyway. Because I don't know, after my discussion, I sort of don't know what I would do. I think you could sort of do something either way, right? I think if MJF has to go on the shelf, the devil and his men can put him out, right? And that's the story to write him off TV, is that they put him off the shelf. I don't want to see MJF win the match and then he gets put down by the devil and then has to relinquish the title. I'm tired of seeing that shit. Just let him lose the fucking belt, right? But if we don't reveal who the devil is, now are we going to just hold on to that for however long the rehab takes? That could go stale. Or do you reveal who the devil is and now we know, but Joe has to deal with it and everybody else has to deal with it. And then ultimately when when MJF would get back, he'd have to get his belt back. Then he'd have to go through the devil and his men or whatever else, what's the way that you would sort of handle this? Ryan, I guess I'll toss it to you first. Like, what would you think the ideal way of doing this is? Because to me, this is the most important story they have right now. They've been building and building and building. And if you don't handle this right, regardless of who the reveal is, if the reveal is the wrong guy, then it's fucked from jump. But I think how you have to handle this reveal, whether MJF is going to be sticking around or not because of injury, is going to make a big difference in how well this goes over.
I think if he's going to be out and unable to be on TV for any extended period of time, I think you have to have the Devils take him out, unless he is the Devils, and he's like, "Hey, I'm going. I don't like this, but there is a story where he wins because of the Devils, and he's like, oh, and I'm going to get surgery, but I'm not forfeiting my belt. I don't love it, but I don't think, again, I'm not leaning that way. I think you have the Devils take him out. I think you have the Devils. I think Joe wins because the Devils hurt MJF, or Joe wins just because MJF's hurt, and then afterwards the Devils come out and just annihilate MJF. And then he's off TV to recover, and then the Devils have their own whatever side things they want to do. And when he comes back, he's got to deal with them.
But do you reveal who the mystery man is?
100% have to reveal them.
That's sort of how I feel. Now, Joe, do you feel the same way? It's okay if you don't, because I think they can clearly do either way, but the timing is the worry to me. Like, if you don't do it, then you have to stick with this mystery man for like again, I'm using a random time, right? 3 months. That gets boring after a while. Like, I just, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm curious to see. I'm curious if we'll ever find out how much they've pivoted this story with, after Adam got hurt, now with MJF's injury, like, how many different directions they had plotted out initially, and if we're still on the same track or if we've had to take some detours. But I think you have to unveil, who the Devil is and have that payoff now instead of months down the line. At this point, I wouldn't be mad if, like, Samoa Joe was masterminding it, even though he's not the Devil character in the videos, but like he's the one pulling the strings. I'd be okay with that, I guess, for now.
I would never have thought of this if when I was talking to my buddy on the phone, he didn't bring it up. How do they deal with this? Because I'm just like, to me, this is all eggs in this basket with the story right now. And I really have this fear, if you don't handle it right, you've just fucked months and months and months of build. It's nerve-wracking.
Yeah, you got to nail it, but at the same point, you can't drag it out. Dragging it out just makes it worse.
No, I tend to agree. Well, it's going to be interesting to see how they deal with it, but back to Dynamite. Winter is coming tonight. Hangman Adam Page, now after that opening segment, is dealing with Roderick Strong. And cutting to the end of the match, Hangman Adam Page does win by pinfall with the Deadeye. He overcomes, a number of distractions from the Kingdom. He's outnumbered, but he is still able to get the win from Roddy. I also enjoyed how Taz is just really telling truth, power to truth on commentary, basically saying, Roddy had to build up the strength to get out of that wheelchair because he was so injured. It's just total shoot, right? So I thought the match was really entertaining. And, they were leaning on the backstory that these guys know each other from their Ring of Honor days and all that kind of stuff. So I enjoyed this match a lot. Good to see Roddy back in the ring. Interesting choice, though, having him lose, but we'll sort of come back to that a little later on because this is really his sort of first big match back. But it's another one of those tough spots, right? Sort of like you have Kenny versus Ethan Page, you have Hangman versus Roddy here. I think this is the right move, but just interesting that Roddy does make this big sort of miracle happened last week where he gets out of the chair. He's finally gathered the strength and now he takes a loss. So, Ryan, you are the biggest believer in Roderick Strong and his now hashtag neck strong, neck strength. What'd you think of the match?
I mean, he's a faker, and I've said that from day one, so it didn't take any strength. He's a faker. And I will not accept your lies. Match was great. I mean, as expected, Roddy Strong, this is the problem when you have him fake an injury for so long. You keep him out of the ring, and he's great in the ring. I do laugh though. They had the complete fake. I do laugh that they had him suplex, but not whatever. I forget the actual type of suplex. Hangman onto a guardrail during picture in picture. I really appreciated saving the hard spots for picture in picture. But this was as expected. Like, I mean, you put two world-class wrestlers in a ring together, they're going to deliver a great match. And the fact that this was just kicking off the show after the Joe promo was amazing.
Joe, how do you feel about hashtag next strong Roddy and Hangman Adam Page?
I would just like to say that I am encouraged that Roddy continues to demonstrate week in and week out. Doesn't go unnoticed by myself and by you. I think him a week out of the wheelchair being able to put this match together against Samoa Joe is a testament to his ability and his superior wrestling.
It's also, I'm sorry to cut you, it's courageous. It's downright courageous.
Not all heroes wear capes. Some wear neck braces.
It's true.
But no, this was like a layer shit and match. I mean, two guys who have a history of just laying all their strikes in pretty stiff. So it was fun to watch that. And, I thought Ryan was talking about the backbreaker and the picture-in-picture, and I thought about the backbreaker he gave Heyman on the turnbuckle. This match felt like to me, it felt like a Continental Classic match, even though it wasn't. It felt like it could have been in it.
Yeah.
Right. One last thing. I think Heyman was a little bit of a savage for doing the Deadeye on poor Roddy's neck. I was a little bit worried about that. And also, the more I watched Heyman in this match, with his hair being more feathered and his brooding attitude, he looked like a lot like an Edge, from years past.
Yeah, no, I hadn't thought about that, but you're absolutely right. And Joe, I'll also say you're right. Because I did think it was a little over. I thought it was a little out of bounds for Hangman to use the Deadeye on a man who has just regained all of his leg strength and is now hashtag neck strong to win that match. If you ask me, if I were officials within AEW, I would suspend Hangman Adam Page indefinitely, just like he's throwing elbows and spinning back fists on a basketball court, like Draymond Green, has been indefinitely suspended. That's just my take, though. Got to stand up for Roddy.
Just his take.
So we move on to our first Continental Classic match of the night. It's a Blue League match, 6 versus 6. Andrade El Idolo versus Brody King. And I'm not going to lie, I was a little surprised here. Andrade El Idolo gets the win by pinfall over Brody King. Brody King was looking pretty unstoppable in this tournament, getting some big wins. I thought maybe we were going to continue that. I personally did not like the decision to give a win here to Andrade. I understand what we're trying to do. We're telling a story, right? There's a lot of sort of, as people say, spoons in the porridge, going on with Andrade in this tournament. But I I didn't agree with the way that they came up with the outcome to this one. I thought the match was fantastic. I thought both guys did great. But I was really hoping that we see, Brody continue to be perfect through the blue. Maybe take one more loss somewhere here. But I just really wanted to see Brody sort of get his time. Joe, what'd you think of this one?
I was a little surprised by the outcome. But, if Brody's going to lose, he needs to lose to someone who, has good size and strength. And I think Andrade, if Brody hadn't gone undefeated up to this point already in the Continental Classic, I think it would be less of an issue for us to think about him losing to Andrade. But I enjoyed the match. Another back-to-back hard-hitting match. And I think the way the match finished with, Andrade again doing whatever it took to win by, exposing the turnbuckle rod and dropping Brody on his head there. I think that helps maybe somewhat protect Brody a little bit, in the loss. So,
yeah, I hear you, Joe. Ryan, what did you think here?
I wasn't surprised. I mean, Brody's not going to win the tournament, so they have to start giving him losses. And you don't have Andrade just beat Danielson to have him come and lose to Brody. I don't think. I think they're pushing it. I don't think Andrade's going to win the whole thing, but I think they're going to have him. I think they're pushing it to have him at least come out looking extremely strong. I think Brody's already gained huge momentum no matter if he loses out from this. I don't think he loses out from this, but even if he did, well, he's only got one more match. Maybe he does. But I think Brody's gained huge momentum by his upset wins, so I don't think he needs to. I think at this point it makes sense to me. And it was a great match. I mean, Andrade, it was interesting. You forget how big Andrade is because he didn't, I mean, he was smaller than Brody, but he didn't look like your typical big guy, small guy. It felt like Andrade could deliver the power and deliver the size needed to fight Brody. So I thought it was a great match. They hit the hell out of each other. My God. But it didn't shock me.
Yeah, I don't know. Part of me just wishes that, they were, sort of pushing forward the younger talent. I get it. Even with the loss, he still gets pushed forward, right? Because he had a great showing against Andrade. I just felt like you had him win 2 matches that, we didn't think necessarily he was going to win the first one, even though it was Eddie. I think we thought Eddie was going to get a win, a quick win. The second match, I thought, okay, maybe the first one was a fluke, and then he beats Claudio. That was a little surprising. So I figured maybe we'd continue that wave. But, I enjoy the cast that says death on it. And, these guys beat the shit out of each other. So just an interesting choice for me. I didn't like the fact that Andrade won. But we will see what's next for both of these gentlemen in the tournament. But Renee Paquette is the stunning Renee Paquette interviews Kevin Von Erich alongside Marshall and Ross. And Kevin says it's great to be here, admires the house style. And then Danhausen, Orange Cassidy, and Trent roll in. And Orange asks if the Von Erichs will team with him on Friday Rampage. And they accept. Even though Brent and Danhausen are saying you're betraying us right in front of us, Orange Cassidy says, well, it's Texas. And they are like, oh, okay, cool. And so Friday we'll see the Von Erich boys and Orange Cassidy in action. So that should be fun. So we'll look forward to that on Rampage. And then we get Kenny Omega making his entrance. And then Chris Jericho making his entrance as we get back from the commercial break. And the Golden Jets are back to speak after the attack on Chris Jericho. So Jericho and Omega are on the mic, and Jericho said it's been a while since they've been here because of Big Bill and Ricky Starks, who attacked him after Full Gear, dislocated his elbow, and put him out for 3 weeks. Last week, after Kenny's great match with Ethan Page, Bill put him on the ground as well, and now he wants them to get their sorry asses out there. I'm not going to lie. I wish they would have stayed in the back for this segment, but Absolute Ricky Starks and Big Bill come to the ring. And Ricky thanks Kenny for AEW, but he doesn't thank Chris for anything. And Bill says that nobody would be surprised if Jericho attacked Omega out of nowhere because of his past. And then Kenny asks Big Bill about the Firm. He says, I don't trust him. He says, let me ask you about your past. Remember the Firm? He said he's looking rather soft lately. And Omega reminds him that they have a title shot and they'd like to have it at World's End. And Ricky says he's already done half the work. And then Jericho comes up with a bunch of, tag team names because Big Bill and Ricky don't have names. I think he calls them absolute assholes. And then for some reason they just call them Big Bill Starks. Or Big Billy Starks. I don't know. But Ricky says Chris shops at Hot Topic. Jericho says that he wouldn't bite him if he were a vampire. And then comes out and says he's better dressed and less charismatic than Enzo Amore. So Enzo getting a little bit of time on AEW air. But then Kenny says Enzo at least let Big Bill have some of the spotlight. Starks fires back then and says it's all talk. If they want a war at World's End, they got it. And we move on from there. They recap Adam Copeland and Christian Cage from last week, and then we're on to our next match, which we'll get to in a minute. Guys, I understand what they were trying to do with this, but it sucked. I mean, I would like to know, Ryan, what your thought is first, because you love everything. So I'm very interested in knowing if you truly did love this or if you just...
No, this was terrible.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
I mean, listen, I love everything, but even I have a limit. My only hope here is everyone's saying Kenny Omega seemed very disinterested, and he did. My only hope is that is part of the storyline of like Kenny's not really feeling this. The Bucks aren't around; they're doing their own thing. Obviously, they will be coming back. So my hope is that this is all part of that. Of like Kenny isn't feeling this thing. Kenny's gonna turn himself and go a little bit more heel Kenny when he works a little better, because he's just not feeling this whole Jericho rah thing, and he wants to be a bit more himself, because yikes, just yikes.
I mean, Joe, go ahead. I have nothing else to say. Go ahead, Joe. What did you?
I don't know what to say. It fell so flat. Even the parts where I felt like it wasn't supposed to be, like, just it felt like Ricky and Big Bill could have just stood there and said nothing and won the promo from letting like Jericho and Kenny just talk and keep stumbling and fumbling all like the words and coming up with bad catchphrases and trying to get Big Billy Starks over when Billy Starks had a big match coming up on Friday.
That's right.
But it was just bad, and I hope the fact that they kind of like tried to like sow the seeds of doubt of Kenny can't trust Jericho, but like it really should be Jericho who can't trust Kenny, and Kenny will trigger the hell out of Jericho in that tag match at some point, because I know they do kind of they introduce him as the Clinger, right? So I think hopefully that he leans into that.
Yeah, it's I don't know, man. This was dumb. Like there's no other way of putting it. This was just dumb. Like it's
too long. It felt, I don't know how long it was. It felt long.
Yeah, it felt really long.
And it had an awkward ending to it. It's like are we done now, or is it? There wasn't like a good go away line to close it out.
Yeah, it pretty much was just Ricky yelling that they're gonna kick their ass at World's End, which is very on brand for Ricky, so I don't fault him. But yeah, it just seemed like It seemed like they should have jumped in a few times, and there was nowhere to jump in because Jericho kept going, you know. But wow, yeah, this was a dud. This was a dud. But I'm with you too, Ryan. Kenny did look disinterested, and Kenny was like, "We don't trust each other. I don't trust Jericho." Jericho never explicitly said, at least I don't recall, Jericho being like, "I don't trust Kenny." You know what I mean? So it does seem like it could be like a one-way street.
Yeah, it definitely does. Like I said, I just feel there's a clip online of him dancing when Judas is playing, and it's like this silly dance. It just very much feels to me like he's out of this, and it could be legitimate. He could just legitimately not be in on this because it's a terrible story going right now, or it could be part of the story where he's just like, what the hell? What am I doing here? Why am I doing this?
Yeah, it was weird. Well, hopefully they rebound. But we're gonna keep moving on in our women's match of the night. Riho versus Ruby Soho. Timeless Tony Storm was on commentary for this. Mariah May was holding the title next to her. Timeless Tony Storm was fantastic on commentary. And that's about as much as I can say about this fucking match. I hated it. Riho won by pinfall with a double knee. What is it going to take for Ruby to get any sort of fucking win? Like, I get it. Riho just came back. I get it. But then why do you have to feed her Ruby Soho? I just don't get it. I don't get it. But Timeless Tony Storm was fantastic. The black and white, anytime she was on camera, was fantastic. She called for a close-up. She was talking about the microphone. She did not believe that was Ruby Soho in the ring because she didn't have green hair. Tony Storm was fantastic. So we're clearly lining up a title match for Ruby and Tony Storm. And I don't want to see, Riho and Tony Storm. I do not want to see Riho win this title again. So we'll see what happens. Guys, make me believe I'm wrong here. Joe, what'd you think?
I can't convince you otherwise. I'm not. I respect what Riho does. I didn't care for the double knee finish. I thought it was kind of a weak finish to beat Ruby. I'm on the same train as I want them to do something with Ruby. I feel like they've tried in the past to try to do something with her, and then she just kind of get stuck in this like mid-card vortex of no, we just kind of use her and put other people over, but no, we'll give her this little romance angle with Cool Hand Ange. Maybe that'll be something down the line, but yeah, they could have put anyone else out there for Riho to win against. They could have put, Anna Jay. They could have put, anyone else. But yeah, wasn't my favorite. But at least Tony was out there and she stole the show.
And I see, by the way, what Scott George is saying. Saraya fed her Riho from their promo last week on Collision. I understand that. I just don't understand the decision to have Saraya feed Ruby to Riho when they have all these other women they could let Riho wrestle. It just don't like it. I also just felt like Ryan, I definitely want your thoughts, but right at the beginning of the match to you, like Riho didn't realize she was in a wrestling match? Because it looked like a few times she was surprised at what Ruby was doing.
I mean, I didn't get that vibe, but I just not that. I mean, she might have been surprised what Ruby was doing, but not because she wasn't. Just surprised by Ruby not, doesn't feel like she's in a wrestling match. To me, it was just, listen, you don't like Rio, so it's hard because if Rio goes out, you're not going to be into it. I enjoy her. My problem is that they do nothing with it. She comes and she goes. She comes. You can't do that. You got to be consistent. Like I feel like she's going to leave after this, and it's just do the thing, do the goddamn thing.
Hi, Jesse. How are you? Good to see you, pal. Go ahead, Ryan. Wave. Go ahead, Ryan. Wave. Wave to Jesse, Ryan. Ryan, wave. Ryan. Right. Sorry, Jesse. Go ahead.
You know, Jesse doesn't want us to spoil. We can't talk about it. If Rio stays, again, she gets cheered by the crowd. No matter what you say, she has crowd appeal. She's a likable baby face. I enjoyed the match. It wasn't much at a time. That's the problem. You can't just. She's just. Listen, you know what? If you're Kenny Omega, we'll just reference him. Kenny Omega can come and go a lot more because Kenny fucking Omega, and he's also been in the company, so like there's a little bit of establishment there. Rio's not there, but I think I don't know. I don't know where I am on this because it is weird to have her just come back, kind of just jump right into this. Knowing I just have a feeling she's going to leave again. I think that's where I'm getting hung up on it is if she came in this beat Ruby, loses to Tony, but stays for the next year, then I'm all in. But I just feel like she's going to leave as soon as this is over.
But I'm also I just still can't buy anything Riho does in the ring as believable. Like at one point she shoved Ruby like towards the ropes and she like barely shoved her and Ruby has to pretend to like fly back into the ropes. Same thing with that stupid double stomp in the turn, off the turnbuckle, with Ruby hanging there. Like Ruby's hanging there for what seemed like forever, staring up at Riho like, let's go. And she's just like standing there waiting. It just
that's the same thing that luchas do, and I don't like it. I have problems when luchas do it, but that is like a lucha thing where that waiting happens. So that's not a Riho specific thing. That's a new wrestling thing where like you got to have some more logic as to why, why someone holds themselves there, and because Riho is not the only person who uses that move, and no one has figured out a logic as to why someone would do that.
But it just because I think of her size, it has to be more believable from Riho. And I just I don't believe it. She just doesn't look like she can do any of it. I don't know. I hate it. She's going to be gone hopefully soon. Please, dear God, she cannot win this belt from Toni Storm. She can't. I'll have a fucking meltdown if she does. Anyway. We go to our next Continental Classic match of the night, a gold match. Jay Lethal still with no points versus Roosh, who has 3 points. And Roosh is able to win by submission with a body scissor sleeper hold to get 3 points. So now he's up to 6. Jay Lethal still looking for a win here. After the match, Jeff Jarrett and crew come out to get Jay Lethal. And they get to the top of the ramp before entering the tunnel, and Jay sort of like steps back and is sort of like not really sure what to do at this point. He looks disappointed himself. The person I feel worst about here was Roosh grabbed looked like somewhat full beer out of somebody's hand in the crowd and smashed the bottle across his head numerous times. That poor guy, it must have been $15 down the drain. But I guess that's what you're going to do in the front row. So, Joe, what'd you think of the match?
Well, that person has a story now, at least. And say, oh, Roosh, that was my beer. You see that? So you can't put a price on that.
I guess. I mean, at least $15.
Give or take, yes. The right person won for me. I think Roosh was the right winner. I like the story they're telling with Jay. Hopefully splintering him away from Jarrett and that faction. They had Jay do a lot of They had Jay do a lot of Jarrett mannerisms in the rings and kind of distracted him from what he was doing. So I think he'll kind of learn from that. I'm also glad that the lethal injection is like inconsequential, where people just block it or it's not effective. But yeah, I think that's all. I don't know if I had anything else to say. It was just kind of a match for me. I'm just glad Roosh won.
Yeah, for sure. We agree there. Schlong, what about you?
I mean, the match was fine. You have two good wrestlers. I can't praise Roosh enough. I think Roosh has been great. I love that they're actually making the Jay Lethal losing a story. That it's not just he was there to take pins and have good matches, because he's had great matches. I can't fault matches, but they're using it. This is how they get him away from Jarrett and Satnam Singh, and that's kind of a good way to use this tournament. Again, that's what I will constantly praise. The stories of the tournament is you have a guy losing, like you have three guys who have yet to win. You have Jay Lethal, Mark Briscoe, and Daniel Garcia. I think they're the only winless ones. And each one of the three has a different story. Jay Lethal's is he needs to get away from bad people. Daniel Garcia's is he needs to rediscover who he was when he came here. And Mark Briscoe's the only one where they don't really have a story. So his is the weakness there. I don't feel like they've really done a story for Mark. But otherwise, I like I said, this was perfect, and Roosh is killing it.
Yeah, I would like to see, regardless of what happens through the remainder of this tournament with Roosh, I just want them to do more with Roosh now coming out of this tournament, because he's a really good wrestler and he lays his shit in. So I would love to see them do a little bit more with Roosh coming out of this, but Roosh has looked good in this tournament, regardless of his record and the points. He's looked really good. So good to see Roosh having good matches. We move on to our next Continental Classic Gold League match of the night. Mark Briscoe, who has 0 points, versus Jay White. Jay White, who has 6 points. And coming through the end of this match, Jay White does win by pinfall with the Blade Runner to get 3 points. So now he moves up to 9. And we go to a break. Mark Briscoe still looking for points. Schlong, what'd you think about this match?
I mean, it was a fine match. Again, I think we kind of knew who'd win it. Jay White needs wins. Not that he's been struggling, but after you have him lose a major feud, you can't have him take on a bunch of losses. So he has a couple, but he needs some real wins. So him looking fine. He doesn't really have I thought he was going to have a story in this. His is kind of faded out. So I'd like to see his story kick in a little bit more. I'm not saying he's completely done, but I would. But Mark Briscoe is about the only guy in this entire tournament I feel like doesn't really have a story. He's having good matches and he's losing, but I don't think anything's coming of it. But that's fine. I mean, you were never going to hit on every single person, so I'm willing to accept that just one isn't there.
Joe, what did you think about the match between Jay White and Mark Briscoe?
Solid match. I like the storytelling of their past and them kind of weaving that into commentary and showing highlights from their ROH days to give it a little bit more something to it. I feel like Jay White has maybe the quietest 9 points of the C2 for me. Like when I think about people who have one loss, I forget that he only had one loss. I don't feel like maybe he hadn't had a match where I felt like it was a signature match so far of the tournament. But I think maybe Briscoe's story is that, he's still trying to make his way as a singles competitor. He's just, he's in this field of other people who are single stars, and he's still trying to navigate that. That's the only thing I could think of that maybe could be his story. I'm hoping that he gets at least a win before he exits the round robin play. But there were a couple of sleeper suplexes that Jay delivered on Mark. I cringed. Talking about neck strong earlier, I felt like Mark fell on his head like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. I mean, just brutal.
I'll take you on neck strong. Take on.
I'm sorry. Were you singing Neck Strong? I'm glad
You haven't heard me. You haven't heard me sing this.
I'm just saying I'm glad to see you supporting Roddy.
No. I support neck strength. I support neck health. Roddy's a faker.
No. It's all about Roddy.
Yeah, in proxy,
No,
you support
he's a faker. He's a faker.
No. I'll say this. I do also appreciate how they continuously on commentary when Jay White is wrestling these tournament matches, they're consistently bringing up the fact that he has round robin tournament experience. He knows how to expend his energy and how to keep something in the tank because it's a long tournament. You have a lot of matches. And Jay White's still in the hunt, right? He's got 9 points. He's still in the hunt, to get to the quarterfinal, right? And the quarterfinal will be gold versus gold, blue versus blue, and then the winners will be the final match. Going up against each other at World's End. So it is interesting, to have them continue to bring that up because it is definitely part of the story. But I don't disagree with you, Joe. It's been a very quiet sort of showing from Jay White. He's just quietly got 9 points. But he's a sleeper. I wouldn't sleep on Jay White. So back from commercial, there's they do a hype reel for the BCC versus FTR and Mark Briscoe at Final Battle. We'll run down that card quickly before we end the show to pump that up. Oh, sorry, I thought you were gonna sing.
I can fade out. I don't torture you for that long.
You looked like your mouth was moving, but your mic wasn't picking it up. I just want to make sure.
You couldn't hear me singing it?
No.
I was saying pump the jam.
Your singing voice must have been the same octave of clapping.
That's right. Ryan, give me a round of applause, would you? I appreciate any time the support comes through. I can't believe that you're legitimately clapping. Now you're not even. I don't even think you were hitting your hands there.
No, the end was faking it because I don't want to clap that loud. But
I mean, I hear the lightest tap.
I mean, I'm literally the reason. Like, I can't. Like, I'm too close to my face here. But I am literally.
Even can you talk and clap at the same time? We've tried to crack this code.
Can you hear me if I talk and clap at the same time? Can you?
I heard one little clap right after you stopped talking. But honestly, Joe, back me up. While he was talking and clapping, I couldn't hear the claps.
No, and I think his voice was kind of cutting in and out a little bit, like it was the noise gate was.
What if I'm doing this? Can you hear this? If I'm snapping and talking at the same time, can you hear any snaps? Can you?
Little bit.
That's amazing.
That's weird. Very weird.
We'll have to have a weekly segment called "Make It Clap," Ryan.
Well, I do that anyway, but just not with my hands.
It would be amazing if you made it clap, and that's what got through the microphone, but not your hands, just your ass cheeks.
I just get up, start twerking, and I'll see you slap.
Wow. All right, so then we're on to our final match of the night. Our main event in our Continental Gold Classic League match, 9 versus 9, Jon Moxley versus Swerve. And it is a hot crowd for this match in Arlington. I mean, the crowd was going bonkers during this match. A lot to take in from this match. It was a spot fest. I know there's a spot embargo on Ryan. So Joe, I expect you to do the heavy lifting there. But cutting to the end, Jon Moxley comes out with the win by pinfall, a victory roll with some tights, earning 3 points for a total of 12. Swerve remains at 9, and Moxley celebrating in the crowd. Strickland is fuming in the ring. And then we get another thing that happens before the show ends, but I don't want to get to it just yet. I want to hold on that for a moment. Guys, this shocked me. This one truly surprised me. This tournament I mean, it could still be Swerve's tournament, but I really thought he was going to get through Moxley. He still probably will have to go through Moxley if he gets to, the Gold League, the Gold League finals. But I really thought he was going to come out with a win tonight. Joe, since you have to do the heavy spot lifting, I'll throw it to you first. What'd you think?
Well, I think the spot embargo's off when someone's not here. So I think Ryan can also chime in with spots, but
I have a spot I want to talk about.
Oh, Joe, please name spots and please touch on the one Ryan wants to get to.
I don't know if I'll hit the one that he mentioned, but like you said, I thought the crowd was good for most of the night, I thought, but definitely this match, it felt like a pay-per-view match with how built up Swerve was coming into this, where he was getting, more of the crowd backing than Mox, which is unusual. The finish of it really kind of went against my prediction of, I really thought this was going to be the first time limit draw. And I thought they were going to go that way until the roll up finish. But I liked it was an interesting way to start the match with them, on the ground doing mat wrestling instead of kind of the brawling. Eventually we got into the stand up strikes that Mox is used to, and some of the spots I guess I really liked in this match were Swerve kicking out Mox's legs when he was on the second rope, and then it ended up kicks his legs out, and then Swerve jumps up and does a jumping DDT in the corner. Also really like the transition that Mox does on the mat with some of his jiu-jitsu background of going from a choke to an arm breaker. So I like watching that. And other than that, I just really surprised by the roll-up finish and by the grabbing the belt and whether or not Swerve's shoulders were up or down. Swerve just seems to find himself in predictions where his hair is hanging out of a casket, his shoulders up. I don't know.
All right, Ryan, was your spot mentioned?
Half of it.
Okay.
So, Joe mentioned the DDT out of the corner. What Joe didn't mention was that Mox was on the ropes getting ready to jump off, and Swerve kicked his legs into the ropes.
No, he definitely said that.
Did you mention that he kicked his legs in and held his legs in through? Well, I only heard the DDT part. Well, then I got no spot.
Well, Ryan, then what did you think of the match outcome? Like, were you surprised to see?
Not at all. Swerve's not going to win the Swerve. I think everyone has Swerve going on the AEW title path, and if he's going for that title, he cannot win this tournament, so he has to take a loss. This was nice because Mox grabbed the tights and Swerve's shoulders were up. So Swerve now has this I was never beat. This is BS. So it's a way for him to take a loss. Now I think he's going to have to take another loss. So I don't know how they're going to get there with that. But at least for now, it was a way to hold him up because he can say hey, my shoulder was up. You had to grab the tights. I was winning. And again, because I don't want him to win this tournament simply because I want him to win the AEW championship. And if he wins this, he can't. So they can't have him win. So I knew at some point he'd have to lose.
Well, I think this means now next week, because I don't have it in front of me, and I didn't do all the matrixing, but I think next week that means that we will get, in our final sort of round robin matches, we'll get Jay Lethal versus Mark Briscoe, 0 versus 0. Somebody's possibly got to get a win. You'll have Jay White going up against John Moxley, and you'll have Roosh going up against Swerve. So those matches should be good. Now, at this point in time, do you guys have a prediction? Because we've seen enough of the gold. We still have a few matches to go in this week's round of matches with the blue. But for the gold side, do you see who the finals are in the gold league are going to come down to?
I gotta pull them up. I'm so bad at remembering who's where.
Well, Mox will have 12 now. Swerve has 9. Jay has 9. Roosh has 6. And then everybody else has 0.
Yeah, Mox comes out of that, and I have Danielson coming out of the other.
So you think our finals are going to be Mox, Danielson, and all BCC?
Unless do they have Swerve get his revenge win against Mox and then lose to Danielson somehow? But I'm trying to figure out how they get there. That's an interesting way to go about it. Now I gotta think this through because I don't know if they want to have Mox Danielson. Joe, you go while I think this through.
To be different, I'll say Jay White Danielson.
Okay.
I can see Jay White maybe winning the tiebreaker over Moxley.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mox is going to run the table, obviously. So Mox is going to get to the gold finals. Then it'll be down to, is it going to be Swerve or Jay White? Right? Now, Swerve holds the win over Jay. So if it does come down to points because of their record against each other, Swerve would get in. So my guess is it would be Swerve and Moxley in the finals for the gold. And I think, Ryan, like, you could still, like, based on what you're saying, like moving Swerve to the proper world title picture, I think he could still win the gold league and then maybe lose at World's End. But I think you could do it sort of either way. So
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I kind of want Swerve to get his win against Mox back, and then how does he lose to Danielson? I don't know. I got to work that. The Danielson Swerve thing is what I got to work out in my head.
Okay.
I thought Ryan was going to sing or rap the standings.
Oh, Ryan, that's right. You said you were going to do homework.
I didn't do homework. If you want me to do it on the fly, I'll do it on the fly, but I did not do homework.
Yeah, hold on. I can give you the standings before tonight. Give me 1 second. Hold on. I'll fucking find it. Don't you worry.
We need to make a note to do this maybe right after commercial break or right before commercial break.
Yeah, next week for sure. I've got a vamp while I'm trying to find this. Let me see. Collision.
Think about what song he wants to go with in his head.
Yeah, Ryan, would you rap it or sing it?
I gotta see. I have no idea. This is gonna be whatever comes out of my mouth.
Whoa. Well, that's a loaded statement.
No, the loaded is what usually goes in, but this is what's coming out.
Winter is coming.
That's true. And you're going to catch it. Here it is, Ryan. I have a link here. I'm going to send you in our private. Here you go.
I got to see if I can do this. I have an idea, but I don't know if it'll pay off.
We're making good time tonight, so we're good.
You got it, Ryan?
Well, these aren't accurate anymore.
Well, I can't help you with that. I'm not doing live fucking math. If you want to do the live mathematical updates, you certainly can. Work through it because we do have one more thing to talk about.
You guys talk and let me think about this.
Sure. So Ryan's going to sit out the final segment, which I don't know why, but maybe it's because he's involved.
I know I'll have an opinion, but you two talk and then I'll give my opinion.
Sure. So post-match, as Moxley's celebrating and Strickland is fuming in the ring, we get taken to the parking lot. You know, where all the good stuff happens at wrestling shows. Not. And we see Hangman Adam Page fighting off the Devil's Masked Men, but he does soon get overwhelmed by the numbers. And then we see a car is there, and out steps the Devil. He gives a nod to one of the goons, and they slam Hangman Adam Page, the hanger, onto the windshield of the car. And he is in pain. That is the show. So Joe, they could do multiple things here, but I would now basically have to say it ain't Adam Page. He's not the Devil, unless somebody else is just wearing his costume to throw us off the scent. The Devil's not Adam Page. Although now Adam Page has a future story, perhaps with whoever this Devil is and this faction. That's sort of the other interesting thing I think that can come out of all of this, and that we haven't really talked about, Joe, is, Roddy brought up a number of things here, right? Like, the Acclaimed get attacked by the Devil, and the goons. MJF gets attacked. Now Hangman Adam Page gets attacked. So the Devils have attacked all of these people. So there's now these like immediate feuds that all these people can sort of get into with the Devil faction, however that sort of shakes out. But Joe, what did you think of this? I mean, we did get a pretty good look at the Devil. We know that it's not necessarily the actual person, but it could be a stand-in. We did get a good look at the goons. The goons apparently are the actual people. No stand-ins here, but apparently those are the people. And there's a large person as part of that group. I think somebody here, maybe Ryan before, said it would be interesting if that's Wardlow. But Joe, what do you think about this? Are we now signing off that it's not Hangman?
I don't think it ever was Hangman. I don't think anyone ever believed it was Hangman. My takeaway from this segment was 2 words, and that's buddy system. If you're walking out to the parking lot, find a buddy. But
or 4, because there's so many.
Or use Riho's lead pipe. I'm sure they give you just a little bit enough of like these little teases in the last closing seconds. I want more so we can get closer to finishing this little story, and then we can proceed to the like you said, the different angles that they're developing with all the enemies they're making.
Yeah, for sure. Schlong, if you could step away from the scoring, and I can even go through news and notes, and we can come back right before we end the show if you'd like a little more.
Not sure I'm going to have it because I have an idea I want to do, and I'm struggling.
Well, we'll check in with you before the end. But for now, what did you think of the final segment with the Devil attacking the Devil's Men attacking Hangman Adam Page?
I liked it. I mean, again, I'm still in on this, and I like that every time you think you know who they are, they attack that person to add mystery, and it kind of still leads you to think that it may be MJF. I don't buy it, but they're trying to keep that mystery alive, and I think that's the most important thing for this storyline. Keep the mystery alive until World's End when you reveal it.
Did the Devil tonight look like anybody you guys might think it is? Like everybody keeps saying it's Jack Perry. That didn't look like Jack Perry to me.
He was too built for Jack Perry.
A little too broad, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think he was big enough. A lot of the other name that comes up is Sami Callihan. I don't think he was big enough to be Sami Callihan. And I don't mean like big muscular, like Sami Callihan has a round sort of physique. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's Sami. Is there anybody, Joe, after seeing the Devil tonight, like that you would say, based on the look we got tonight, I think it's this person?
I don't know. I mean, the closest one to my head would be MJF, just because of like the shoulders and like the traps, and like he was a relatively like Jack guy, where Jack Perry's not that body type. Sami Callihan's not gonna be that guy. I'm trying to think of anyone else who would fit that description of like, but again, like you said, it could just be the stand-in. So
even like Mustafa Ali, whose name's been sort of bandied about.
Yeah, he's not that
not
broad.
the right body size, right? So, Ryan, anybody? I don't mean to keep taking you away from your homework. Is there anybody now after seeing The Devil Tonight you think it might be?
No, nothing's changed. Same people I thought before.
Okay.
And
I
yes,
do
Jesse, you're seeing my forehead. I'm thinking.
I do like having Wardlow. He's like involved with it, but kind of on the outskirts of it, where he's not getting involved with the devil's, the devil's eggs or whoever they're called. But he's still a part of the story, so like you don't know if he's a member of that or not. So that's an interesting tidbit.
Well, winter is now upon us, and it was a fun episode of Dynamite tonight. Rampage should be fun. We know we're going to see the Von Erichs teaming with Orange Cassidy. I don't know what this means for the future of the Von Erichs in AEW, if this is sort of like a trial for them or something like that. But
will they win with an Iron Claw?
I mean, it would be awesome. But it's nice synergy here, I guess, a little corporate synergy, right? So the Iron Claw comes out next week, I believe. It is coming out through A24. And A24 has a relationship with Warner Brothers Discovery because of A24 inked a deal with Max for, streaming and stuff like that. So nice little bit of corporate synergy if that's all it is. But I do look forward to seeing that. So, and then we have more Blue League matches. So we're going to move on. We'll give Ryan a little bit of time. We'll check in with Ryan. But we're going to go through some news and notes from the past week. And we'll run down the final battle card really quick. So the first thing that sort of came up over the past week, Joe, is that Andrade El Idolo, apparently wants to be gone relatively soon from AEW, according to a bunch of reports and different sources. I think Meltzer was the one who was pretty vocal about it, saying that he's going to go back to CMLL. Not exactly sure when, but should be soon. And that his AEW deal should be coming up soon, unless it's extended because of his injuries or whatever else they had going on with, suspension and injury and all that kind of stuff. But apparently the feeling is that he wants to go to the WWE because he wants to be back with his wife and live, I guess on their schedule. And it should be noted too about Andrade that he was revealed as the CML sort of like mystery luchador. So they had a vignette teasing a mystery luchador, and then Andrade explained his return for the first time since 2015 in an X post this week. He's, I guess, going to be wrestling at Arena Mexico on December 15th for CMLL. Joe, does it surprise you that Andrade would not necessarily be happy in AEW, and now sort of having this news sort of come out, all the rumors and innuendo over the last week? Do we think that they're maybe changing a little bit of what's going on with him in the tournament to placate to him a little bit?
Maybe, but I feel like he probably made up his mind a while ago. And I'm sure in your news and notes, he's just one of several people who aren't thrilled about their position or their storylines in AEW at the moment. I think the idea of him going back to WWE had been there since Vince left. So I think having him do this run in Mexico at CMLL and doing the things that he won't be able to do once he goes back. I think he's just trying to get all that stuff out of the way, and maybe by late spring, early summer, he'll be at a different promotion.
if I had to put money on it, his deal's not going to be up exactly when we anticipate because they're going to extend it. He was out for a long period. Part of that, I think, was due to the fight that he had with Sammy backstage. But he was, he did have, I think, a pec injury. So I think they're within their rights to extend it due to the time he was out. So it'll be interesting, although it does seem like nobody really knows how long they would extend it. So regardless, we'll see what's next up for Andrade. But it was also announced this past week that Samoa Joe will play Sweet Tooth again because Twisted Metal is coming back for a second season on Peacock. There was a video that went out and Samoa Joe was, there as Sweet Tooth. So I gave it a watch, not even necessarily for Samoa Joe, just because I'm familiar with the property, Joe. Did you give Twisted Metal a shot?
I did. I mean, I played the hell out of that game on the PS1, and I was curious to see how it would translate into live action. And I enjoyed it for what it was. It's not something I'm going to go back and rewatch, but it was fine.
Yeah, I am glad that they did get picked up for a second season because it definitely left on a cliffhanger. And I was like, okay, I'd like to see how this plays out. But I'm with you. Like, I'm not going back and rewatching, that again on Peacock. It was perfectly fine for what it was, but, one and done sort of. The other thing that came out is that New Japan revealed a new title, and that Moxley, Ospreay, and Finlay are going to fight for it at Wrestle Kingdom. The setup was that Bullet Club leader Finlay smashed Ospreay's IWGP US and United Kingdom title belts with a hammer. And then New Japan quickly had confirmed that they were going to be introducing a new championship for the three men to fight for at the Tokyo Dome on January 4th. And now it has been revealed. So NJPW chairman Naoki Sugabayashi said the company's considered bringing back the IWGP Intercontinental title that's merged with the old heavyweight belt to form the promotion's current top prize, the World Heavyweight Championship back in 2021. But keeping their current strategic goals in mind, they decided that they're going to have a new title that represents those, and that is the IWGP Global Championship. So we know that they're going to have that, and that it's going to be Ospreay, Moxley, and Finlay fighting to become the very first inaugural IWGP Global Heavyweight Championship. New Japan also, the tag league wrapped up on November 10th. Bishamon made history as Haruki Goto and Yoshihashi became the first team to win the tournament 3 years in a row. They beat Hikuleo and El Phantasmo. They avenged a loss to the Guerrillas of Destiny during the round robin tournament as well. So now there's going to be a face-off at the Tokyo Dome, and Bishamon's IWGP Heavyweight Tag and the Guerrillas of Destiny Openweight Tag titles will be on the line. So the Wrestle Kingdom 18 card will be Sonata versus Tetsuya Naito for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. That match should rule. Okada versus Danielson. That match should rule. Ospreay, Mox, Finlay for the inaugural IWGP Global Heavyweight Championship. That looks great on paper. Takahashi versus El Desperado for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. That also sounds really great. Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi versus tag team champions Hikuleo and El Phantasmo for the IWGP Heavyweight and New Japan Strong Openweight Tag Team Championships. Clark Connors and Drilla Maloney versus versus TJP and Francesco Akira for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Titles. Zack Sabre Jr. versus Hiroshi Tanahashi for the NJPW World Television Championship. And Shingo Takagi versus Tamatonga for the Never Openweight title. So, man, on paper, that card rules. And I'm sure that in practice, that is also, going to pay off. So, I know a bunch of people who sort of listen here watch some New Japan, but there's also a lot of AEW talent or people we've seen in AEW, maybe even at Forbidden Door, who are on this card. So looks like it should be a lot of fun to kick off the new year with. Joe, we also saw at the premiere for the Iron Claw that MJF got to meet John Cena. So the pictures are out there of that. But also we did get reports. Apparently, it seems like MJF's work, his on-screen work for the Iron Claw, pretty much wound up on the cutting room floor. Now, there are still some debates on that. Some people say it's not true. Some people say it's true. Some people say it's true, but he's still in some scenes. If you look really close and squint your eye for like 3 seconds in the background, he's there. But he's still an EP credit on the movie about the Von Erichs. And he did get to meet John Cena. So, hey, I mean, dreams do come true, I guess, Joe. I don't know how he got to meet John Cena, though, because most people can't see him.
That's true. All I saw was him meeting Liv Morgan.
Really? I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I'd love to meet Liv Morgan. I'm just saying.
I mean, talk about New Jersey.
Well, that's very true. I can. I don't think she comes from too far from where I live either. So we could talk about some of the local joints.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, there has been a lot of chatter this afternoon about Warner Brothers Discovery and the possible rights to WWE Raw. It's a lot of sort of like Twitter rumor stuff. I haven't seen any firm reports, but like it is lighting the world ablaze. And sort of to go hand in hand with all that, it should be noted that AEW's current television contract with Warner Brothers Discovery is up at the end of next year. The next deal could also prove, to go a long way to determining if AEW is actually going to be profitable. Also the Ring of Honor, catalog was purchased this year or last year, and there's been a lot of rumors on that being part of deals and stuff like that. But Tony Khan did get asked about this on December 12th during a media call to promote Ring of Honor's Final Battle. And he didn't really have much to say, but he did sort of confirm that negotiations are ongoing with Warner Brothers Discovery, as TNT and TBS's parent company continues to be mentioned as a potential bidder for Raw. So Tony did say, we've had really good talks with Warner Brothers Discovery, had a great visit with them today, and we have a really exciting relationship that has grown a lot over the years and has expanded for AEW. He also said, I definitely think, talking about the Ring of Honor and the tape library as part of those talks, he said, I definitely think it's a value add for AEW and Ring of Honor to be aligned with media rights that are coming up for AEW in 2024. It's going to be a very exciting time for AEW, and it's great to have Ring of Honor there as far as strategic value. I don't think it's any surprise that Tony Khan has sort of mentioned that he thinks that Max would be a great streaming partner for all of his wrestling companies. I think we've all discussed it here. That would sort of be a no-brainer, right? You get Max, maybe you pay extra for the sports package and you get it. But yeah, and then he also confirmed that a meeting on Tuesday's call, and his answer seemed to confirm the strategy of bundling Ring of Honor and AEW rights He said, as far as Ring of Honor TV rights, we've had a lot of interested parties. It's definitely something I've been holding on to and haven't had a lot of detailed conversations. I think CW is a great network, and we did have a visit. Dennis visited us from Forum last year, and it was great. I have a lot of respect for Dennis Miller and the CW folks. The timing for us wasn't necessarily right, but there are a lot of great interested people in the marketplace in both AEW and Ring of Honor. For 2024, it will be a really exciting time for pro wrestling, and Ring of Honor added a good value going forward. So he's doubling down on that statement. Joe, what do you think will happen to Twitter? Especially Twitter, because it's just the cesspool of where you go for everything. What would happen if Warner Brothers Discovery did purchase the rights to Raw? I mean, there's essentially no need to renew AEW after 2024.
Right. There would be a lot of conversation pieces on Twitter and on the YouTubes about what that would mean for the two largest professional wrestling promotions. Does that mean one just AEW gets cut out? Does it mean Warner Brothers Discovery decides to try to have the two promotions somewhat maybe play nice with each other? And maybe we get find that the dream scenarios and the crossover events and the real Forbidden Door opens. So you have all that kind of fantasy booking and speculation run rampant. But yeah, it would be really interesting to see what Warner Brothers Discovery would do. I mean, obviously, if you have the option to pick up Raw, I mean, it's a no-brainer, I think, right?
Well, what's interesting is that I agree with you, but it's interesting because there are some people out there saying, hey, Warner Brothers Discovery could possibly be on the verge of bankruptcy. Not like tomorrow, but sometime in 2024, if they don't play some of their investment cards right, they could file for bankruptcy. So, if the deal you can make is for Raw and Raw will generate the revenue that you need, you could pull yourself out of that hole.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, it's do you really need two wrestling promotions? As part of your portfolio. Don't disagree with you. The possibility of a true Forbidden Door happening is something that a lot of people would probably find intrigue in. But also, I'm interested in what you said about a lot of the discourse that would happen via Twitter. My question would just be, will it be civil? Because it's amazing with the news breaking sort of and all the rumors going on earlier this afternoon as they continue to. It's amazing how many people are just AEW's trash. You should definitely buy, buy WWE. Mm-hmm. The other thing that's going around is CM Punk is with WWE, so they were high on him, so that might be why they want to bring back Raw. But it's a volatile situation. It's just wild.
One LT photo does make a good point in the comments about NBA negotiations in the spring and how NBA on CNC is such a big thing for them.
Yeah, I mean they've sunk a lot into their NBA coverage, and it apparently does really well for them. So I think if they can get a deal there that works for them, then yeah, it's a huge cash generator for them. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens and what is sort of true and not true. So stay tuned. More to come. But the last thing I have here, as we said, is Friday night. There is a Ring of Honor pay-per-view, the Final Battle pay-per-view from Garland, Texas. And when they announced this, I think we had mentioned the card possibilities are pretty weak. Like, I don't know what it's supposed to look like. It's definitely taken shape and it's looking more intriguing than it was. So the match list for Final Battle right now includes the Ring of Honor Women's World Championship. That's Athena versus Billy Starks. The Ring of Honor World Television Championship. That would be defended in a survival of the fittest with a match with Dalton Castle, Commander, Kyle Fletcher, Lee Moriarty, Lee Johnson, and one more person. Bryan Danielson, John Moxley, and Claudio Castagnoli are going to be fighting FTR and Mark Briscoe. Keith Lee will fight Shane Taylor, and then we'll have an I Quit match versus Ethan Page and Tony Nese. It's one of those shows, Joe, where like, they announced it and I was like, oh, I'll go back and watch it. But like, I don't know. A lot of these matches now intrigue me. Like the Athena Billy Stark story that they've been telling has been good. The trios matches in honor of Jay Briscoe is a nice touch to me. And that, that should be a nice match. Survival of the Fittest is a fun match too. So, I'm a little more intrigued now. I do have Honor Club, so I should probably start getting a lot more use out of it. But, Joe, does that card right now intrigue you? Interested in watching the show?
It intrigues me. I probably won't watch the show. I think I still have someone's Honor Club login, so maybe I'll use it.
Hey, might as well until they change the password. Do it. But honestly, that's it for the news and notes that I have tonight. Ryan, we've gone through everything. Do you have something for tonight?
No, I've tried. I have been putting it to Wild Wild West. I have up until Switchblade, so I have the first 3, and then I cannot make the rest work. And I am going to make the rest work, but I don't want to deliver a half product.
Okay, I understand.
But it's going to Wild Wild West.
So then next week,
you get
we'll
Wild Wild West
early, and then plug in for Wild Wild West.
Yeah. Well, assuming the rankings don't change, because that's kind of how I'm laying out. I got,
sure.
But yeah, I have, like I said, I just don't want, I got up to the Switchblade, and then after that, it kind of falls apart.
Okay, well, you heard it here, folks. Ryan should have something next week to test out on air. As far as the Continental Classic rankings go. So stay tuned. Will they be a rap? Will they be a song? Something that's sung? Sounds like Ryan's going to try to go a little, like Hannah Montana said, you get the best of both worlds. So.
Will there be a hat involved?
I didn't even think about it, but now there has to be. Yes, there has to be, because it's going Wild Wild West.
Okay. I just want to make sure people tune in next week for this.
I mean, if there's one thing we've learned, Ryan has costumes and accessories. So
yes, plenty of them.
All right, gang, that's going to do it for us tonight, but we're going to wrap up with some business first. Joe, why don't you plug whatever you want to plug?
Sure. Find me on social media @_Asian Joe. In my bio, you can find a link to my cereal review blog where I kind of test out random novelty cereals. I haven't done one in a while, so if you have a suggestion, just at me and let me know.
All right, you heard it here, folks. Joe's looking for your recommendations for cereals to put into his blog, because he's at the point now where he is eating his Saturday morning cereal and watching Dateline. So, if you got an idea, send it along to Joe. Schlong, what would you like to plug?
Follow me on our socials @MarkOrderPod, and then follow my history blog here for history.com.
All right. And I will plug, just like everybody else has, our socials @MarkOrderPod, X, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Definitely give us a follow. If you go to one of those pages and you're following us, hit the link tree. There's links to all of our other socials there. Sort of a one-stop shop. You can go and subscribe and like and do all that kind of stuff. You definitely want to be following us on social. Twitter, is a good one because, as I said earlier, before we start talking Dynamite, we are working on a whole bunch of stuff for 2024, which would include a bunch of additional content. A website is coming, much like winter. Website is coming, and hopefully we'll have some things maybe that we write and put up there, some op-eds, whatever. So definitely follow us on our socials to see what's going on and when we're looking for help from you guys. But if you want to follow me, my personal stuff, it's at AntMoney on X, at AntMoney247 on Instagram. So feel free to give me a follow if you want to see the bullshit I post. It's not a lot, so no worries. Thank you to everybody who is watching along tonight. 1LT Photo, Scott George, of course, the Ravishing SJ checking in earlier, as well as Slonomite. I want to throw Slonomite into that mix as well. And we also want to thank our collective best friend, Jesse Ozog. Hi, Jesse Ozog. Thanks for watching along tonight, pal. We always appreciate you here. One of these nights, we're going to get Jesse Ozog to guest on this show, and I am going to have so much fun with that.
I just won't be here that night.
Oh, you'll be here.
No.
You'll be here.
No.
We won't tell you when.
What's that?
We won't tell him when.
No.
Not at all.
I'll just leave.
So definitely, if you haven't checked us out on YouTube, head on over there. You can see all of the podcasts in video format and our bonus content, all in video format. Make sure you subscribe to the page so you also can get alerted about when we have videos coming, and all that kind of jazz. Thank you to anybody who's listening after the fact in podcast form. That greatly helps us, especially if you rate, subscribe, review, whatever. Helps us in the algorithm. So if you're listening to us in podcast form, make sure you give us a subscribe. Helps us in any platform you're in. And if you'd like to support us monetarily with a little bit of your hard-earned dollars, head over to our Pro Wrestling Tee store. That link is in the link tree in any of our social bios. But you could also go to prowrestlingtees.com/markorderpod or search the Mark Order Podcast on Pro Wrestling Tees if you're, shopping for other stuff. And then you'll find our 4 t-shirts, 2 front prints, 2 double-sided prints. So plenty to choose from at this point in time. We thank you. We thank you guys who have bought a shirt already, and also to the people who are still considering it, and eventually gonna buy a shirt. So thank you guys. Other than that, make sure you got to tune in. You got to tune in next week because Ryan said he's going to sing or rap or both. Our standings in the Continental Classic, especially because we will have them after Collision ends on Saturday. So tune in next week for Ryan on his rap along with the standings. Yeah, we thank you guys for listening. Ryan, thank you, pal. A lot of fun as always. Joe, a pleasure. I'm vamping because I don't have any of this stuff in the right spot. My apologies. All right, we're set now. So thanks again, guys. We'll be back next week on the Mark Order Podcast, doing what we do best, talking everything in the world of AEW and chatting along with you guys. So stay cool until next week, and we will see you then.
concludes the Mark Order podcast. We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming. Join the Mark Order.